It is our great pleasure today to have one of our alumnus, uh, Dr. Ellie Chow, to give us a featured talk for our Tiger program. And before I give her the floor, so let me first introduce Dr. Chow. As I said, Dr. Chow is a CityU alumnus. She received both her bachelor's and master's degrees from the former Department of Biology and Chemistry. And shortly after that, Ellie embarked to California and received her PhD in biology at the California Institute of Technology, where she gained research experience in neuroscience, molecular biology, genomic analysis, and biochemistry, and was a co-author of multiple publications and patent applications. Her graduate work focused on the single-cell transcriptome analysis of sleep regulations. I can't sleep too well these days, so maybe you can help me out later. Ellie's experience as an inventor propelled her to explore the intellectual property sector and eventually becoming a patent attorney. Currently, Ellie is an associate of Kilpatrick, Townsend and Stockton LLP, an international law firm recognized in the intellectual property space. She focuses her practice on patent prosecutions, counseling, and due diligence in the fields of chemistry and life sciences, with a particular emphasis on biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. So before I give her the floor, I have to introduce myself. I'm Chi Chen, the director of TED. Okay, and without further ado, let us welcome Dr. Chow. Ellen, please.
Hey, thank you very much, Professor, for the kind introduction, and thank you for the invitation. I am very humbled and honored to give this talk today. First of all, I would like to congratulate the students who finished your final exams. I hope you have some time to get some rest, get some sleep, and get some good food and have fun. So this is my my profile. I don't think we need to read this again. Basically, it boils down to just a few bullet points. I'm a CityU alumna, not once, but twice. It was so good that I have to come back. And I'm a biologist. I have always been interested in molecular biology and genomics. Currently, I'm a patent attorney. What that means is I help people to protect their intellectual property. And we're gonna talk about more about this later. I'm a mother to some little and big creatures. Some of them have 2 legs, some have 4, and I love them very much. And my mom lives about 325 miles away, a good distance. I go to see her every 3 to 4 months, and I do talk to her about twice a week. That's a pretty good amount. My husband and I are partners in many ways, good and bad. And he's also one of my best friends. And of course, I'm always surrounded by, I'm very blessed and surrounded by good mentors, friends. Many of them I have met for, I have known for many years. I met them in middle school, in college, in grad school, law school, and at work. So before I lose your interest, I would like to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Here's my link. And you can also Google me up. Of course, if you're welcome to connect with me through email. If you're interested, just leave a message in the chat room and we'll get to that after the talk. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in. This talk will be is structured in 3 parts. First, I'm going to give an introduction of intellectual property. Then I'll share my experience studying at City University and in some other institutions, share my career development and my 2 cents of work-life balance. And hopefully at the end of it, we'll have time to have some questions and answers session. All right. Property, when we think of property, most people will think of like real property, tangible things like land, houses, chattels. If you own land, you pretty much own a bundle of rights. You have the rights to enter, the right to sell, the rights to rent, you have timber right, you have mineral rights. These are your assets because they have monetary value. Intellectual property is different, it's non-tangible. These are ideas, creations that happen in our mind, but we can still convert them into something tangible and generate income. And again, you can transfer them, you can sell and you can buy and you can license it out. There are different types of intellectual property. Patent protects invention and design, innovation and design. Copyright protects works of authorship. Trademarks would protect. I apologize, I think this, okay, yeah, it comes back. Trademark protects brands and trade secret protects know-how and business knowledge. Let's take a look at trademark. These are like words, phrase, symbol, design, color, or sound that are so distinctive and unique or easy to identify the brand, the product, service. For example, you look at this sign here, it's Nike. It does not even have the word, but you know what that is. It's Apple, Coca-Cola, Diagala. I have to say, for disclaimer, I am not endorsing any of these brands and we are not sponsored by any one of them. I'm listing them here for the, for illustration purposes. And this applies to any other brands that I list here as well. So anyway, and also intellectual property, I am talking about the IP system in United States, and some of it, what I'm saying today may not apply in China or in other jurisdictions. So just keep that in mind. In the US, with respect to trademarks, you have local rights once you use it. But if you want to have a broader rights, you need to register with the US Patent and Trademarks Office, the USPTO, and then you will have federal, a broader, nationwide protection. But then you can use this registration mark on your product. Good thing about trademark is it never expires as long as you use it. So copyright is a right that protects original artistic expression that has been transformed into something tangible. It prevents people from reproducing, distributing, publicly performing or displaying your invention. Typically, it refers to like books, poems, movies, music. These days, it also include software codes or written materials, recordings, sound, you name it. Unlike trademark, copyright has a life term. If the inventor is an individual, then you have the lifetime of the inventor's lifetime plus 70 years post-death. If the copyright belongs to an entity like a corporation, then you take the shorter form of either 95 years from publication or 120 years from creation. You have to register it in order to enforce your right. You would like to do that because you can, give people a reasonable notice that you have right over that property. This is your intellectual property, and people know, and they will stay away from it. Trade secret. like I said, it's a secret. It's not in the public domain. And these are like secret formulas. For example, Coca-Cola's secret formula of the Coca-Cola itself, or KFC have their secret formula blends of spice and herbs that they use to marinate their fried chicken, which is so yummy. Again, I am not endorsing these brands. So because it's a trade secret, you cannot register it. Once you register, you have to disclose, and that is not a secret anymore. So companies have to take all necessary steps to protect their trade secret. Ways you can do is to have contracts in place. If you have employees who do the work, then you have employment agreement, or if you have non-disclosure agreements, that sort of thing, and you keep it to just disclose to as just to people who are necessary to know the secret, so that they don't disclose it to the public. So trade secret would never expire as long as you keep it as a secret. And patent is something that I do day in and day out. So buckle up, we're gonna spend a lot of time here. What is a patent? It is a right to exclude others from making, using, selling, or importing a patented invention. Basically, it is a government granted monopoly to practice your invention. And I want to remind you once again, it has property right. You can transfer it, you can buy it, sell, or license it out. Patent is territorial, meaning that each country has its own vetting and enforcement system. If you have a patent in the United States, which means that people cannot buy, make, or sell your product within the territory of the United States, but that doesn't mean they can do it in Canada or Mexico or China if you don't have a patent protection in those jurisdictions. Patent is also relatively short-lived. It has about 20 years of lifetime from the time of filing for utility patents and plant patents. And for design patents, you have 15 years. An example of design patent is, Coca-Cola bottle, that shape, or even your iPhone, that rectangular shape. So I just want to give you a brief idea of what kind of procedures are involved in getting a patent, and what type of right you may have during the process, even before your patent is granted. Like I said, you begin with the concept and invention. For the purpose of this talk, I'm going to use the university setting as an example. So imagine your PI has a project, gives it to a postdoc or a grad student, then the student goes on to conduct the experiments, collect data, analyze data. And it comes back, say, hey, we got something interesting, we might be able to patent it. Then what do? You go to talk to your knowledge technology office staff, I believe. Then they would take an initial assessment, look at what you disclose to them. The more you disclose, the better, because then they can make a much better or more reasonable assessment. If they decide that, okay, there is something new, then they will send it out to an outside counsel, typically a patent attorney or a patent agent. That's where I come in. That's what I do. And at this point, we will take it over and we will do a much more detailed evaluation. We would do a quick patentability search, basically do a landscape analysis, look at identify what kind of technology that the disclosure belongs to, and what kind of patents out there, who's out there, can we claim this is this novel. And imagine we come back and say, hey, we think there is a chance of getting a patent, there is something novel here, we should protect it. Then at this point, we would recommend to file a provisional patent application. Now, a provisional patent application is something that will just sit there at the USPTO. No one would touch it. No examiner will look at it. It's just you and me. We know it, but nobody else will know. But you ask, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to spend money on it, pay you to draft the application and file the application? Well, the answer is pretty simple. I want to give you an example, like say, well, in not many years ago, when I was a child, in Hong Kong, we go to the restaurant, like you go to Yamcha, you don't wait to be seated. You have to look for your table. So sometimes, you bring your newspaper, you see a table and an empty chair, you place the newspaper there. That's like a sign to people. To others, like, I'm interested in this table. So people see it, they know it, they're like, okay, I'll go and find another table. That's sort of when you kind of like mark your territory a little bit, like some sort of pseudo right over what you try to claim. So a provisional application is sort of like that. In the US, especially, it's under the first to file system, meaning that the person who files the invention first, if two people file a similar invention, the USPTO will look at who files it first, and the person who filed first will be considered as the true inventor. So the other thing is that once you file your provisional application, now you are pretty much secured. You can disclose it to the world. You can submit the paper, you can get it published wherever you want. No worry about that your paper will someday become prior art against your own patent application. And number three is that you also buy time. So during this whole year, you can generate more data, and typically more data, the better. So a year later, you now have two options. You either convert that into a non-provisional patent application, which will be examined and published at some point. Or you can just say, you will like, oh, on second thought, it's not that interesting anymore. We are not doing that anymore. You can just let it go abandoned, and nobody would know. Whatever you disclose in that provisional application would still kept in secret. So imagine you file a non-provisional patent application, and then an examiner will be assigned, depends on what type of in the technical field, an examiner will be assigned to evaluate your patent, and they will do a thorough patentability search. They will find prior art, which is anything that is related to your invention, prior to the date of your patent application. Anything under the sun. It could be a patent application, could be an issued patent, could be a paper, could be a review, could be a newspaper, could be a video, you name it. Then the examiner will look at it and check what you claim, your subject matter, and will say, oh, not novel, it's obvious, no claim. And the examiner would summarize it in an office action and send it to your attorney, and the attorney will look at it and come back, make arguments, or if necessary, amend the claims, which we're going to talk about what is a claim later on, to get around, to overcome the rejection. So okay, this will usually happen like back and forth for a few times. Then the examiner say, okay, that's good enough. I'm going to allow it. So you get a patent. Then you pay the issue fee. You get your patent issuance. At this point, you have the right to enforce your patent right. You also need to pay a maintenance fee, which is very important. Otherwise, your patent will go abandoned or would die before the natural life, which is 20 years from the day of filing. But I want to bring your attention to, even before your patent is granted, you already have some sort of right over your patent. You can transfer your patent property rights as soon as you file the patent application. So it's part of your asset. All right, now let's go back to what is patentable. You don't need to have a genius idea to be able to be patentable, but some subject matters are not patentable. For example, laws of nature, like DNA by itself is not patentable. Natural phenomenon, sunset, sunrise, not patentable. Abstract ideas, like our good friend here, it's writing this algorithm on the blackboard. These kind of things are abstract ideas. They're not patentable unless you can tie it with some practical value. And what is patentable is anything that's new, useful, process, machine, manufacture, composition of matter, or even sometimes it's just a new modification or improvement of an existing technology. So in order for a subject matter to be patentable, you want to find that sweet spot. Look at this Venn diagram here. It has to be patent eligible, which is like the things, not any of those three things I mentioned earlier in the last slide. Then on top of that, it has to be novel, means that it means nobody had ever think of it or had used it in the exact manner that you're claiming. It has to be non-obvious. For example, you claim that your invention has three components, A, B, and C. Then the examiner comes back and say, well, I got two references. One teaches a component A and B. Reference 2 teaches component C. Then you add the three together, then you say A, B, C, ta-da. Obvious, not patentable, but not quite. Sometimes when you look at it closer, you would find out that actually, yes, they talk about all the elements, but they're actually telling you to go into two different directions. So you would tell reference 2 is saying that, well, never combine with reference A because it's not going to work. Or reference 2 is saying something bad about reference A, then it will not motivate you to combine it. So you will go back and tell the examiner, let's say, hey, there's no motivation to combine. And even if you combine them, there is no reasonable expectation of success. You're not going to arrive at the clean invention that we have here. And sometimes, unfortunately, even if there is a prima facie obviousness case, you can still argue that our invention is so much better, we're so much cooler. Our invention gives unexpected results. Even if you were to combine all the teachings in whatever reference you combine, you would not be able to achieve the result that we have presented here. So that shows non-obviousness. And lastly, a patent has to be useful. So then how to get a patent? I mean, first you need to identify if the subject matter is patentable. Like I mentioned the timeline earlier, you might want to talk to your university's technology office for evaluation. If you're a startup or a corporation, you might have in-house counsels, and you want to encourage employees to regularly disclose, to have invention disclosure. But whatever you do, do not, one step back, if you have identified or you believe that you have a patentable subject matter, do not make public oral or written disclosure. Don't talk to anybody. Don't publish that paper. Don't go on a business meeting until you have an application on file or until you have a non-disclosure agreement signed. Because otherwise it's likely going to become a prior art. In the US, you still have 1 year grace period if you, by mistake, made a disclosure, you can still file a patent application within a year. So it's not that everything is lost, but unnecessary stress for sure. And then you want to determine the inventorship. An inventor is one who conceives the invention and also has made contribution to at least one claim. Typically, the professor who gave you that project would be an inventor because they conceived the invention. The grad students or postdoc who conduct the experiment and then later on design follow-on experiments to get the data would be an inventor as well if the result contributes to a claim. Now, the supporting team, like technical support, the staffs, the technicians who helps to take care of the animals, prepare solutions, excuse me, they probably, their work probably will be unlikely to contribute to a claim, but this is different from, so they will not be an inventor. This is very different from getting an authorship in a paper and inventorship in a patent application. It's great to give credits to staff. They deserve, they work hard, but when it comes down to filing a patent application, you want to be vigilant. You want to keep record, because if you have an incorrect inventorship, it's just an invitation for later on litigation for invalidity. In like, people would challenge that your patent is not valid, and yeah. And the other thing is you want to record the assignment as soon as you can. You don't really have to record the assignment at the time you file the application, but as good practice hygiene, I usually recommend to record the assignment whenever you can. An assignment is the inventor transfer their right, assign their right over the invention to the applicant, could be the institute or the corporation. You may think that, well, the grad student's there, she's going to be there for a few years, we have time, but it's a dynamic world. Students graduate, postdocs get a job, employees go to another company, and by the time you realize they're gone and you don't know where to contact them, and there's just unnecessary stress to find them to record that assignment. And yeah, who owns the patent? It could be the inventor or the applicant or assignee. So applicants, like I say, is the person or the entity that file the application. Sometimes the inventor could be the inventor herself, could be the applicant as well. I want to bring this to your attention, like an employer's own IP created by employee in scope of employment. What that means is that if you are hired by a company to design and make chairs, then you go home, you design and make a chair. That chair you use in your garage, and you use your own money, you use your own material, but that invention still belongs to the company because it's within the scope of employment. The designing and making is part of your employment scope. employment. So be careful and read the employee handbook and also the employment agreement. The other thing, if you're a startup company, you probably want to hire some consultants or things like that. They typically own the IP unless you have a contract in place for them to assign IP rights to the company. And last thing is potential other owners. This could be joint development projects, like you have a project, a professor at CityU University has a project with another professor at another university. So then you have to universities that this is a joint project. So be careful with that and let your patent attorney know about these ins and outs, the small details. And last thing, the government and grant thing, I think it's more like a US thing. If you receive federal funding, the government has an interest in your IP rights. So just to give you an example, what is a patent? A patent usually would have a patent number here, and this is the date of patent, not the date of filing. This actually says that the date the patent was issued. And you would have the title and applicant. This is a City University of Hong Kong patent. Inventors, Professor Dan's invention. And the assignee here is City University. Like I said, it could be the same, could be different. If this patent has been licensed out or it has been sold to someone else, then the assignee could be a corporation, for example. And so patents usually, or not usually, it has to have at least one claim. A claim is kind of like an agreement between the applicant or the assignee and the public. You are saying, imagine it like the meets and bounds of real property of your land. You set the parameter of what you own, and a claim says, well, we're not claiming the entire universe, just a little corner of it. For example, here, the patent is about transgenic fish, but your claim here is, I am claiming an expression cassette. And what I have here is a reporter nucleotide sequence, and I have an estrogen responsive 5' regulatory DNA molecule promoter sequence, and they're very specific. It's only these three sequences here, see ID number 2, 3, and 4, that are important to me. And if someone uses has an expression cassette, that has each and every element of this claim, they infringe your patent. And then you have a right to get damage. You could either get monetary damage, ask for money, or get an injunction, tell them to stop. Please don't do that. So yes, then it goes to, why do you want to get a patent? It's offensive value. It's like kind of like a sword. You can sue for infringement, right? And get as many as you can. It's powerful. And the other thing is, it also has defensive value, like a shield. If people want to sue you, you have patent protecting your product, then you can kind of sue them. Sometimes you will facilitate settlement of an infringement lawsuit. And sometimes you also get better contract terms. And at the very least, it will become prior art to other people who wants to enter the domain. So case in chief, excuse me. Case in chief here, this is a lawsuit just came out last week, May 6th. It involved two big DNA sequencing companies, Complete Genomic DNA, CGI, and Illumina. So CGI has two patents, and they brought a lawsuit against Illumina, alleging that some of Illumina's products are infringing two of the CGI patents. So in this case, Illumina came back and say, oh, no, we did not infringe. Not only that, you know what, your patent is garbage. No, really, your patent is not valid because of these reasons, because it's not well supported, because it was not vetted properly, and not only that, your products, your existing product infringe our patents. So Illumina came back with 3 patents and say, see, these are the terms, and you infringe us, and now you have to pay us money. So it went on, and last week the federal judge came back and say, well, the jury decided that Illumina did. Well, the CGI 2 patents are valid. They stand the challenge, and also Illumina infringed CGI's patent. And so the court tell Illumina to pay $334 million. So not very cool to Illumina. Yeah, the other thing is you have business value, and you can attract investors to invest on your company. You can start marketing and selling your product as soon as you file the patent application. You don't really need to wait until the patent is issued. And again, you can also license it out. So just a few things how to protect your bundle of sticks. Like I mentioned, you want to have contract agreement in place. Check your employment contract and vendor agreements, secure copyright and patent rights, execute and record assignments. I'm not going to repeat myself, but the other thing is you want to have non-disclosure agreements handy. Carry that with you when you go to a meeting, probably. Protect your trade secrets, encourage patent filing, have some sort of incentive program to encourage people to make disclosure and do patentability, good patentability, landscape, freedom to operate analysis, that sort of thing. You want to protect your trademark and copyright. The take-home message is invest in patent early. As I showed you earlier in the timeline, it takes time to build a portfolio. So you also want to design a patent prosecution strategy. This really depends on your business goals and budget, how much money you want to spend on it. The patent prosecution is not cheap. Sometimes for startups, maybe to get a quick start, you may license it in from some other people. And also you can file provisional applications in addition to non-disclosure agreement, just the belt and suspender thing. File a provisional application within 1 year of disclosure. Be careful with that. And this is the 1 year grace period. I know for sure, yeah, it's applicable in the US. I'm not sure if there are some other, you can use it in some other jurisdictions as well. And consider whether you want to file a foreign application. It's not cheap. Again, if you don't foresee, you don't foresee that you will enter, like say, the US market, then don't file in the US. It's expensive, not necessary. think ahead and be vigilant when dealing with competitors' patents, or even when you go to a conference, you see a poster describe something related to your invention, you might want to, pick up the phone and call your attorney, talk to your attorney. Yes, call me. So now we're gonna switch gear to talk about from the bench to the desk. Like I said, I love biology ever since I was a kid, and I think the movie Jurassic Park changed me a lot. I was fascinated, and I was like, oh my God, you can bring life back. Then I went to the university. I studied biology, didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I did not have the stamina to become a medical doctor. I thought I would be a scientist, but then I did not quite have, again, the patience to become a professor. But I think in during my undergrad, in my second summer, I started a research project at Professor Dan's lab, and that changed my course, and that was the changing point. And she was very supportive. We work on embryonic development and toxicity in zebrafish here. And she made me believe myself, gave me the confidence. And sometimes, what, you just need one more person to believe in you. And that means a lot. And I thought, yeah, I could do it. And I was blessed enough that in my lab, we were in the basement, G2407. It's a teeny lab, but it was filled with fun and very nice people. I have more senior grad students who were always there to guide me and help me out. And we also share it with another lab, students from another professor. It was good times, a lot of fun. And and then I got married and I moved to the US. I interviewed for a job at Caltech before I decided to pursue a PhD. And I remember I went to an interview at Professor Eric Davidson's lab. He's not with us anymore. But at the time I told him, he's like, oh, so what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I love biology. I'm always fascinated by how one single cell can develop into a multicellular organism. And it just came out of my mouth that day. And it turns out that that's the kind of thing that he's interested in. So I was hired on the spot. And from there, I stayed at Caltech for about 10 years, including my PhD. So later on, I moved on to so what Eric does was he looked at promoter regions or intronic regions, regulatory elements that would control whether a gene would DNA would be expressed or would not be expressed. So later on, I want to use that knowledge to build from it to look at the readout of gene interaction. So for my thesis, I worked on chicken and C. elegans to look at how knocking out some of the genes, or even a bunch of them, how they affect animal behavior like sleep. But there's always this missing link in me that I was thinking about. This is a more academic subject. I want to know how can I be closer, bring my research to, to daily life. And that's like this innovation and commercialization gap there. At the time, I was being told that, well, with a PhD degree, you could be a patent attorney or you could a business, it could be a business founder or consultant. So the plan was seeded in my mind and the idea was there. And then coincidentally, my life changed. I have a little boy. This is actually written by Nathan last year. It's my son. And pretty much sums up his early life very accurately. I will go to pick him up from school, and then we'll go back to the lab. I would finish up my experiments, then we'll go home for dinner, and on the weekend, we'll do things, and then we'll go back to the lab again. And he would sit there, talk to my lab mates, and while I do experiments, and I would, do my own thing. So I felt like I owe him the time that I needed to give it to him. Doing lab work is fun, but it requires me to be in the laboratory for a substantial amount of time. And I thought changing, course of my career, changing career, I want a job that I could bring it home and work from home and spend more time with him. That actually not quite happened, but at the same time, I also filed a patent application. So that gave me the opportunity to talk to a patent attorney. And from there, the door just opened. I got interested in it. So I started joining career events on campus or off campus. I connect with people, alumni, friends and friends, just add people to your LinkedIn, Twitter. I remember when I was interested, when I decided to explore patent prosecution, my sister introduced me to a friend of her friend who happened to be a Caltech student who just graduated and went to work at a law firm doing patent prosecution work. So he was kind enough to talk to me and give me the insider picture of the industry. And later on, I join his firm and become a scientific advisor and start my patent prosecution career as well. Then, a few years later, I'm knee deep in this career. I became a patent agent and also went to law school, just decided to become a patent attorney. And I enjoy what I do. One thing I like it a lot is that you get to know a lot of interesting cutting edge technology before even it's published. And I like that kind of thing. And even better, I don't need to do the experiments. So so if you are interested in something or you don't quite know what you want to do, just go out and explore opportunities. Go build and maintain and support network. Like your network could be friends, church people, your spouse, your family. And find a mentor and also be a mentor when possible. Always, help someone out as well. Join a career development club. I remember at the end of getting close to my graduation, me and a few friends from USC, and we started a project and we did a business consulting project, and we all thought we were going to become business consultants. We had interviews at those big consulting firms. I'm not going to name them, but none of us were hired. But it's fine. We're all in good position right now. And what I'm trying to say is that it's good to pause and reflect. Sometimes when things don't happen the way you want it to be, it's not that bad. And if you're really interested in something, do an internship. You may get pay or you may not get pay. It's okay. You pay your due. When you had the experience, when you have the skill, they will appreciate they will appreciate it, and they will give you the reasonable compensation. And last thing, utilize LinkedIn. I'm not paid by LinkedIn to advertise it, but use it. It's free. Okay, I'm almost done. So yeah, make each day count. Life happens. You don't know what's gonna happen next, and always make your life, your day count. Accomplish something. I remember when things were really bad, when my health was bad, I still tried to go out on a walk, and that's accomplishment. The other thing I like to do is I would hand wash dishes. It's therapeutic. You see a pile of dirty dish, you wash it and put it out there, and I feel like I have accomplished something. So do little things, make yourself feel good, and time goes fast. This is in June 2014, and this is in 2022. Boy, someone has aged. I hope that was not me, but you get the idea. Your children will grow and things go fast. Just, grab whatever time you can spend with them and your family as well. And don't forget to stop and smell the flowers. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ali. And maybe we should give you a round of applause before we start the Q&A. Thank you for sharing with us the importance of protecting our intellectual properties, as well as giving us the timeline how to apply for a patent. And I just want to share with you that Professor Zhang's lab is still on the ground floor of the academic building. Okay, so maybe we have some audience here. Is anyone would like to ask any questions from our students? Anyone? Well, I always keep telling my students that they should be able to ask questions anytime, and that actually also give answers very quickly too. Apparently they are not ready yet. So maybe I will ask Dr. Chow a couple of quick questions. Now, sorry, there's some echo here. Looking back at your university life, was there anything that you regretted not doing or learning during the period of that time? And the reason?
Well, I think if I would like to explore more things. So growing up, I didn't think business was such a big thing, but if I could do it again, I probably would take a business management class. And the other thing I thought about is it will be good for anybody if the university could have more, at least one class to teach students how to be organized, time management. And these are skills that you can apply to whatever you do, what kind of career you do, or, I think that will be very useful.
Yeah, okay. Maybe the next question is, what kind of soft skills you think the students should have?
Just be genuine and be yourself. If you I guess
for example, in your job, of course, writing and speaking in front of a large group of people may be important, right?
Yes, I think, one soft skill I've learned is you need to learn to manage up and manage down.
Well, in any aspect, for example, the skills that can help you in your in the student's future career, for example?
I guess just go out there, meet friends, and don't forget, if you meet someone, for example, if you go to a socializing event, you get their number, you go home, and what I used to do is I go home and immediately I go on LinkedIn and search for them, for their names, and then I try to add them to my LinkedIn list. And you never know, you're just building your network. And if you have an interview, it's never, too much to send a thank you note within a reasonable amount of time, to a day, 2 days, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that is a question from the online questions. What is the most remarkable experience when you are dealing with a patent issues? Suppose, have you ever facing any very interesting particular application that may be out of ordinary?
well, all of my patent applications are interesting. I think all of my clients are great. So I think, yeah, all of the subject matters are nice. If I were to say interesting or remarkable, I vaguely remember there was one time I was working on well, put it this way, I worked on a patent application for organ transplants to reduce, rejection of transplanted organ. And I did not know how much the impact was until one day I went to the nail salon. I was getting my nails done, and there was this lady came and sat next to me. She started talking to the lady, the staff. It was like, the staff was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a long time." And she was like, "Oh yeah, because I had cancer, and I could not do this and that, and I had a transplantation." And I realized that it sounds like she was using the technology that I just helped prosecute it to secure a patent. So that pretty much made my day. I was very happy. Yeah.
Very good, very good. We have a questions from the audience in person. Please.
Hello, thank
Hi.
you for your presentation and sharing. I would like to ask a little bit more technical question on the patents and intellectual property.
Okay.
And I'm interested if, like, of course, you can commercialize your patent, your invention, but sometimes you want to give it to the world for free. And are we still legally required to patent that invention so that nobody else can do that before us, or we can just somehow declare that it's free to use? That's my question.
So I guess your question is trying to find a balance, whether you want to secure you want to get the patent, or you want to share the idea, but let some other people to practice it. Is that correct?
No, I mean, like, if I want to share my working with the world for free, do I have to patent it so that nobody else can patent it? Or I can declare it somehow that it's free to use or cannot be patented or something like that?
Well, if you want people to use it, you don't need to file a patent application. People can use, because you didn't carve out your territory. So the other thing is, you could still file a patent, and you can just like give your consent, give it just to people that you want, allow them to use it. I mean, you have a patent, that doesn't mean that it will automatically stop others from practicing your invention. You still have to take actions. You need to enforce it, meaning that you have to be actively looking out there, who is infringing your patent. Then you have to launch a litigation. So if you don't do anything of that, even though you have a patent, people can still technically practice it. If you don't know and you don't enforce it, then you will be free.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's another questions from the audience.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. So my question is, it may be a little bit too technical. So let's say I created an invention and I patent it in the US. And then a businessman from another country, let's say China, built a company that sell products based on my invention in China, which is outside of the scope of the patent protection. Now, will I still be able to patent my invention in China and take back my rights over my own invention? Because in the perspective of the Chinese government, then it's not novel anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not
Yeah.
that there's like any workaround so that I can still have the rights over my own invention.
Right. So I think you're right. If you have a US patent, it's not going to be enforceable in China. It depends on when do you, so you want to think about that. Like when you file the patent application, like I said, you think you're going to enter the Chinese market, then you might want to file in China as well. If not, then yes, your US patent will become prior art. One suggestion or recommendation that we typically give is at the time of converting that provisional application to be to a non-provisional application, you could actually choose to file a patent cooperation treaty application, a PCT. That means that one application would allow you to enter any of the treaty members, which includes China. Of course, when I say enter, it does not mean it's free. You have to pay the fee and it can be quite expensive. So you don't need to enter all of them, but you can select the main, markets or jurisdictions to enter.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, I guess I need to share with the student, for example, that the university encourage our students and staff to file for the patents of the inventions. And if after we apply and if they approve, the university will take care of the application fees. So it won't be a burden for you, especially for the students. So I think it is a way to encourage the university, encourage our students and staff to actually protect their intellectual properties. Okay, now there's a questions from online. Let me just repeat what the audience says. It's a very informative presentations, and he wants to thank Dr. Chow. So his question is, can I still patent something? My patent is based on a prior patent. Basically, for example, if there's already some invention, but if I have additional idea, whether he can file for a patent for that. Yeah.
There is a possibility. Like I said, a lot of inventions they don't just come out, brand new. Some of them are just improvement over existing technology. So even though there's a patent of the subject matter, if you come up with a new idea or an improved idea, it's still patentable. For example, if you remember, like at some point, people were talking about using a HIV drug to treat COVID. So that drug exists, right? But you're just repurposing it. You kind of like you're using it to treat another disease. So that is the novelty there, and it's non-obvious. So yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, in view of time, and I take the liberty of asking you the last questions, short questions. So you're a biologist, and now you're an attorney. So what do you want to achieve next? I know that you'll be an excellent mother. So what's next?
Well, I think so many things happened, and I would like to learn to be a good attorney for sure in the coming few years, pay my due and learn from the best mentors I could find, and spend a lot more time with my family. My son is going to college in 3 years, and I'll be an empty nester. So yeah, time goes fast. So I want to work hard and at the same time spend time with my family.
Okay, excellent. Well, once again, let's all the audience give Dr. Chow another round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for the great sharing today. And once again, thank you, and will be continue to be connected. And thank you, Dr. Chow.
Okay.
Thank you.